My fiance's rich family laughed at my job, so I made their mansion flood. Before we begin the story, take a moment to support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support means the world to our channel and helps us spread more shocking true stories to light. Now, let's get started. All right, buckle up because this one's a wild ride. You might want to grab a snack. This is going to be long. So, I'm Nate, 28, and I was engaged to the love of my life, or at least I thought I was. Olivia, 26, was everything I ever wanted: smart, beautiful, hilarious. The kind of woman who could brighten up a room just by existing. We met by chance when I was finishing up my electrician apprenticeship. Her apartment complex had some faulty wiring, and while I was fixing it, we got to talking, hiking trails, movies, random stuff. Then she laughed, and man, that laugh, it was the kind that could make any bad day better. And yeah, she was fine as hell, in that effortless way where she didn't need layers of makeup to look stunning. She was perfect. Her family, though, a complete nightmare. From day one, they treated me like an outsider, a curiosity, like I was some stray dog Olivia had brought home. They had that picture-perfect suburban life. A massive house, shiny cars, dinner parties with people who talked about stock portfolios for fun. But behind a fancy facade, different story. Her dad, Richard, was some big-shot investment banker, always looking at me like I was something he stepped in. Never had a real conversation with me. Just a distracted, "Oh, what is it you do again?" every single time we met. And when I answered, "I own my own electrical business," he'd nod vaguely, like he'd already forgotten my words the second they left my mouth. Her mom, Claire, was the queen of passive-aggressive compliments. The kind of woman who would pour you a drink with a smile, but be silently judging the way you held the glass. She'd say things like, "Oh, it must be so fulfilling to work with your hands," in a tone that made it clear she thought manual labor was one step above dumpster diving. And then there was her sister, Madison, a human headache, constantly starving for attention, stirring up drama for no reason other than sheer boredom. From a moment I stepped into their world, they sized me up. The first time I showed up at their house in my work boots, immediate judgment. Richard, with that same tired question, "So what exactly is it you do?" Olivia's mom, pretending to be impressed, "It's so wonderful that you have a trade. So stable." And Madison, smirking over her wine glass, throwing in a casual, "Isn't that kind of dangerous? I could never date someone who might not come home one day." Like I was out diffusing bombs instead of wiring breaker panels. Olivia tried to defend me, sometimes, but her words never seemed to matter in that house. They'd steamroll right over her. Later, she'd tell me, "They don't mean anything by it. They're just old-fashioned." Old-fashioned? No, I knew exactly what was happening. They didn't see me as an equal. They saw me as a project, a temporary inconvenience. And over time, I started feeling it too. Like no matter how hard I worked, I was never going to be enough for them. But Olivia was worth it. Or at least, that's what I kept telling myself. Playing the part, swallowing my pride. For a while, I did my best to ignore it. Their snide remarks, the subtle digs, the way they always treated me like some charity case Olivia had picked up off the street. It wasn't easy, but when it was just me and her, away from all that judgment, things were good. Really good. We had our own little apartment, separate from their world of designer everything. My electrical business was growing, already had a couple of guys working for me, steady clients, good income. Life was solid. But the real test? Family events. Every holiday, every dinner, every gathering, I was paraded around like some exotic pet. "This is our daughter's fiancé. He's an electrician," like I was some kind of novelty act, proof that they were so open-minded because their daughter was dating a blue-collar worker. Then came the questions. Always the same. "Do you ever get shocked? Have you thought about going back to school?" Like my career was just a phase, something I'd eventually outgrow when I figure out what I really wanted to do. Never mind that I was running my own business, making solid money, no student loans, and actually loved my work. Nope. To them, if you didn't wear a suit, you might as well be a caveman. One time, just to shut them up, I casually mentioned how much my business made the previous year. Richard actually laughed, thought I was joking. When he realized I wasn't, his response, "Well, I suppose that's respectable for that line of work." That smug, dismissive tone made my blood boil. I wanted to say something to put him in his place, but I didn't, because Olivia was right there, squeezing my hand under the table, silently begging me not to start anything. Just ignore them, she'd say later. They don't mean anything by it. And for a while, I convinced myself that it didn't matter. That I could deal with their condescension, their backhanded compliments, their utter lack of respect, because Olivia was worth it. Because we were building a future together. But then little things started changing. Not just with them. With her. She started making comments about my clothes. Suggesting I should freshen up my style. Buying me button-up shirts that weren't really my thing. She'd hesitate when people at work asked what I did. Once, I overheard her friend ask, "Wait, he's just an electrician." And Olivia's response? Not a proud, "Yeah, he runs his own business." Just an awkward laugh and a quick subject change. I told myself it was nothing. Just little things. But little things add up. I thought about leaving more than once. But I loved her, and I don't give up just because things get tough. So I tried harder. Bent over backwards, really. I dressed up for their stupid dinner parties. Read up on stocks and investments so I could make conversation with Richard. Help Claire set up her phone whenever she had tech issues. Did everything I could to prove to them, and to her, that I was good enough. And the whole time, I kept telling myself, they'll come around. They'll see that I'm the right guy for her. They'll finally accept me. I was a damn fool. The offer that changed everything. Then came the night that flipped my world upside down. It was a Friday dinner at her parents' house. One of those long, drawn-out affairs where they brag about their money, their connections, and their exquisite taste in art, while I quietly sip my drink and try not to roll my eyes. That night felt different from the moment we walked in. The air was thick, like the calm before a storm. Claire was being extra nice, which was a red flag all on its own. Richard had this weird expression, almost like he was excited to talk to me. That had never happened before. Dinner started with the usual nonsense. Richard bragging about some $1 million deal, Claire name-dropping celebrities from some charity event, Madison whining about how nobody appreciates her art. The usual self-absorbed drivel. And then, out of nowhere, Richard set his glass down and fixed me with a look. "So, we've been thinking about your situation," he said, swirling his drink like he was about to deliver some life-altering wisdom. I already knew where this was going. I could feel it in my gut. "My situation?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, your career, your future, our daughter's future." I glanced at Olivia, but she wouldn't look at me. Just kept pushing her food around on her plate. That's when I knew. This wasn't spontaneous. She knew what was coming. They had planned this. "I've spoken to a colleague at the firm," Richard continued, like he was bestowing a gift upon a peasant. "He's willing to bring you on. Entry-level investment analyst. No degree required. We're making an exception." I nearly choked on my drink. "What?" Claire jumped in, smiling like she'd just announced I'd won the lottery. "We just think it would be a better fit for you. More secure. A real profession. Not that there's anything wrong with being an electrician," she added, saying the word like it was a disease. Madison smirked over her wine glass. "Yeah, but do you really want to be crawling through dusty attics when you're 50? This is your chance to level up. Level up. Like my entire career, something I'd built with my own two hands, was just a starter job that I needed to grow out of." Then Claire delivered the final blow. "We're thinking of both of you," she said sweetly. "Don't you want to give Olivia the lifestyle she deserves? The right social circle? A country club membership? A summer home?" And that's when I turned to Olivia. I needed her to say something. Anything. I needed her to tell them to back off. That she loved me for who I was. That this wasn't their decision. Instead, she hesitated. Then she sighed and said, "Babe, you should think about it. Mom's been talking to me about this for a while, and it makes sense. Don't you want us to have a good future? To be comfortable?" And just like that, everything clicked into place. She wasn't on my side. She never had been. They had been working on her slowly, quietly, until she folded. Until she was halfway out the door, packing her bags for a life I would never belong to. Richard leaned in, going for the kill. "Let's be real here," he said, smirking. "You're always going to be the odd one out in this family. Our friends ask what our daughter's fiancé does, and we have to say electrician. Do you know how that sounds?" I was about to respond when Claire dropped the final bomb. We don't need you as you are, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. You're unnecessary to this family's future. Unless you change, you're always going to be in the way of what Olivia could have with the right kind of man. The table went silent. I could hear the ticking of their expensive grandfather clock. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Did they just say that to my face? I took a slow breath and let my gaze sweep across the table. Richard, arrogant and smug. Claire, smiling like she had just solved the problem that was me. Madison, swirling her wine, waiting to see how the drama would unfold. And Olivia, my fiancée, the woman who was supposed to have my back, sitting there in silence. I turned to her one last time. Is this what you want? I asked, my voice quieter now. For me to give up everything I built? To become some corporate drone so your parents aren't embarrassed? She sighed again, exasperated, like I was the one being unreasonable. It's not about giving up, she said. It's about growing, evolving. This could be really good for us, for our future, for our children. And that's when I knew we were done. All the love, the promises, the late night talks about our future together, it was all a lie. She didn't want me. She wanted a version of me that her parents could approve of. And I had wasted 2 years of my life trying to be good enough for people who would never see my worth. I took a deep breath, set my drink down, and then I smiled because I finally saw things clearly. Walking away and leaving a flood behind, I leaned back in my chair, staring at the people who had spent 2 years treating me like I was some kind of charity project. Richard was still smirking. Claire had that patronizing tilt to her head, and Madison looked entertained, like she was watching a reality show unfold in real time. But the only person I cared about was Olivia. She was still avoiding my eyes, her fingers nervously fidgeting with her fork. That told me everything I needed to know. I took a slow sip of my drink, savoring the silence before I finally spoke. Let me get this straight, I said. You want me to quit my business, the one I built from the ground up, to start at the bottom of some corporate job, because being an electrician embarrasses you? Richard scoffed. It's an opportunity, young man. Do you know how many people would kill for a foot in the door at our firm? Oh, I'm sure, I said. But let's be real here. You're not offering me an opportunity. You're offering me an ultimatum. Change, or I'll never be good enough for this family. Claire sighed, like she was tired of the conversation. It's not an ultimatum, dear. It's just we expect certain standards in this family. And right now, you don't meet them. Madison took a sip of her wine. Nothing personal, she added with a smirk. I let out a slow breath, tapping my fingers against the table. Then I turned to Olivia one last time. And you? I asked. Is this what you want? She finally met my gaze, her eyes pleading. I just want what's best for us. No, I said. You want what's best for you, and what they think is best. And that sure as hell isn't me. I pushed my chair back and stood up. Yeah, got it. Thanks for dinner. I walked to the door, grabbed my jacket, and just as I was about to open it, Richard barked, "Don't be stupid. Sit down and let's talk like adults." I turned around slowly, my hand hovering over the control panel mounted discreetly on the wall. See, when I installed their fancy smart home system last year, I gave them full control. But I also kept an emergency access code. Not because I planned on using it like this, but because people like them, who don't know tech from toast, never bother changing the default passwords. I had warned them more than once, but they never listened. Now, they were about to learn just how unnecessary an electrician really is. I typed in the override code. First, I flipped the breaker remotely. The entire house plunged into darkness. What the hell? Madison shrieked. Next, I disabled the security system. A soft beep confirmed the alarm was dead. What is happening? Claire's voice was sharp with panic. Richard shot up from his chair. Turn that back on. Right now. I smiled slightly. Funny how you need me now. Then, for the final touch, I accessed the sprinkler system's controls. I had installed the whole thing myself, down to the last wire, and I knew exactly how to trigger the emergency fire suppression system. I tapped a few commands. A second later, a soft hiss filled the air. And then, the ceiling-mounted sprinklers exploded to life. Water poured down in powerful streams, drenching everything. Furniture, carpets, artwork, the expensive dining table they had probably imported from Italy. Claire screamed as her designer dress clung to her skin. Madison shrieked, clutching her hair like it was the end of the world. Richard's face turned purple. "You son of a—" I opened the door, stepped outside, and let the chaos unfold behind me. By the time I reached my truck, I could hear them losing their minds inside. Water splashed onto the floors, expensive electronics short-circuited, and Claire's voice was screeching about my furniture, my house. Maybe not my most mature moment, but you know what? Sometimes people need a little reminder of what happens when they take you for granted. I pulled out of their driveway without looking back. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. They needed me after all. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter than I had in years. No more walking on eggshells. No more trying to prove myself to people who would never respect me. No more forcing something that was never meant to work. I took my time getting ready, grabbed a cup of coffee, and finally turned my phone back on. It immediately blew up. 50+ missed calls. Texts flooding in, one after another. I scrolled through them, smirking as I read. "Olivia, what the hell did you do? The carpets are ruined. Mom's clothes are soaked. The security system is dead. And Dad can't even open the garage. Fix this now. Asterisk. Claire. Nate, dear, we may have been a bit harsh last night. We only want what's best for your future. Please come help us with the system. Everything's damaged, and we have a charity event tomorrow. We really need you. Richard, listen carefully, you little piece of trash. You'll come back and fix what you broke immediately, or I will have you arrested for vandalism and destruction of property. I have security footage. I have proof. I have friends at the DA's office. If you don't show up by noon, your little electrical business is finished." I laughed out loud. Oh, now they needed me? Now that their precious smart home was completely fried? Now that they realized just how much they depended on the unnecessary electrician they looked down on? Pathetic. I forwarded every message to my buddy, Luke, who just so happened to be a lawyer, along with something else. See, when dinner had started feeling off the night before, I'd done something I picked up after dealing with difficult clients. I hit record on my phone. I had the entire conversation saved. Every insult, every condescending remark. Claire explicitly saying, "We don't need you as you are." Richard admitting he didn't want an electrician in the family. Every word crystal clear. Luke called me back almost immediately, laughing his ass off. "Dude, this is gold. They're threatening to use connections at the DA's office. That's straight up corruption. And as for the vandalism charge, forget it. You installed their system. You had admin access. And from the sound of it, they never updated their passwords. Insurance won't even cover the damages if they were negligent. So what do you suggest?" I asked, still grinning. "Simple. Send one final message. Then block their numbers." So I did. To Olivia, "Check your system. Username, still admin. Password, still password 1234, like I told your dad to change 1,000,000 times. Not my problem anymore. P.S. I quit." Then I blocked them all. I had real clients to take care of. The aftermath and an unexpected bonus. That evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Almost didn't pick up, but figured it could be a potential client. It wasn't. It was Olivia's cousin, Tessa, the only member of her family who was remotely decent. "Dude, what the hell happened?" she asked, barely holding back laughter. "The whole family is freaking out. Their house is a total disaster zone." I gave her the short version. The dinner, the career intervention, Olivia siding with them, the flood incident. She was quiet for a second, then just said, "About damn time." Turns out, this wasn't the first time Olivia's family had pulled this kind of stunt. Her last boyfriend, an artist, talented as hell, had worked in legit galleries. But they did the same thing, tried to force him into a corporate job, told him his career wasn't a real profession. He eventually dumped Olivia and told the whole family to go to hell. "They've been doing this for years," Tessa said. "They can't stand the idea of anyone in the family being with someone who doesn't fit their image." She filled me in on the aftermath, and it was glorious. The water had done serious damage. Their expensive hardwood floors? Warped. Their custom wallpaper? Ruined. Electronics? Fried. And the best part? They had some huge charity event planned at their house that weekend. Invitations had already gone out. Everything was booked, and now they had to cancel it. Claire was losing her mind, crying about how her reputation was ruined. Richard, meanwhile, was stressing the hell out because his firm was going through some kind of restructuring, which in rich people terms means layoffs were coming. And Madison? Daddy had finally cut off her endless supply of money, which meant her art gallery, Red, expensive hobby, had to shut down. I sat back in my chair, taking it all in. It was beautiful. I didn't feel bad, not even a little. They had spent 2 years treating me like dirt, looking down on me while using me as their personal handyman, acting like I was lucky to be in their presence, when in reality, they were lucky to have me. And now, they were paying for it. The real upgrade. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. I got an email, not from Richard's firm, but from one of his colleagues, a guy who had been at some of those dinner parties. Hey Nate, heard about what happened. Honestly, I can't stand Richard. He's an arrogant prick. I'm renovating my lake house and need a reliable electrician. Are you available? 1 job turned into 2, then 3, then 10. Turns out, when one rich family talks about you, all their enemies start paying attention. Within weeks, my business was booming. I had to hire 3 more guys just to keep up. Bought a new work truck, rented an actual office instead of running everything from my garage. And the best part? I met someone, a woman who ran a coffee shop downtown. I was hired to rewire the place, and during my breaks, she kept bringing me homemade cookies. We got to talking. Turns out, she quit her corporate job because she was sick of the politics. She made less money now, but she was happier. We clicked instantly. First time I had dinner with her family, her dad, a plumber, asked me about my work because he was genuinely interested. Her mom sent me home with leftovers. It felt right. No judgment, no condescension, no trying to fix me. Just real, down-to-earth people who saw me for who I was and valued me for it. And as for Olivia, well, a few days ago, she texted me from a new number. I miss you. I think I made a mistake. Can we meet for coffee? I stared at the message for a long time. A month ago, I might have been tempted, but now, I just laughed. Because some circuits, once blown, can't be reset. The last desperate attempt. I ignored Olivia's text, left it on read. Some things don't deserve a response. But just when I thought I was finally free of her and her family's nonsense, they showed up. It was early morning and I was sitting on my front porch, drinking coffee, enjoying the quiet. I had plans to head over to Amy's place later. Yeah, coffee shop girl's name is Amy, and help her pick out some new pendant lights for the shop. Life was good, peaceful, finally drama-free. And then a black SUV pulled up in front of my house. I knew before they even stepped out exactly who it was. Olivia, Richard, Claire, and some dude in a suit I didn't recognize. I sighed, setting my coffee down. I wasn't even mad, just tired. They marched up my driveway like some entitled, dysfunctional family militia. Olivia looked like she'd been crying. Claire had that pinched, tight-lipped expression she always got when she was about to cause a scene. Richard looked like he was about to pop a blood vessel. We need to talk, Richard barked. I didn't move from my chair. Nothing to talk about, I said, taking another sip of my coffee. Then Olivia dropped a bomb. I'm pregnant, she blurted out. And it's yours. I almost choked on my drink. I stared at her, trying to process the absolute bullsh asterisk T that had just left her mouth. What? I finally said. She put a hand on her stomach, all dramatic. I was too scared to tell you before, but I'm 3 months along. I blinked. Then I laughed. Hard. Because 3 months ago, we hadn't even been together anymore. That's impossible, I said once I caught my breath. How dare you accuse my daughter of lying? Claire snapped. We have medical records. The lawyer dude, guess that's who he was, cleared his throat. I'm Richard Wilson, the family attorney. We're prepared to file for paternity and child support immediately, unless you're willing to discuss a reasonable settlement. And just like that, I knew exactly why they were here. This wasn't about me. It was about money. Because Richard had lost his power at work. Because their house repairs had cost them a fortune. Because Madison's dumb art gallery had tanked. Because they needed a new meal ticket. And they thought I was dumb enough to fall for this pathetic last-ditch scam. I stood up slowly, stretching. looked at Olivia dead in the eye. "You've been dating that finance bro for at least 2 months," I said. "This is his problem, not mine." Her face flickered. She hadn't expected me to know that. "We have witnesses who can testify that you were still seeing each other as recently as 3 months ago." The lawyer tried again, clearly sensing the scam falling apart. I shook my head, chuckling. "Buddy, I've been with Amy since before that. Check my social media. Hell, check the security cameras at her coffee shop. I'm there almost every day. You sure you want to take this to court?" The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Richard, however, was too far gone. "You will sign an agreement taking responsibility for the damages to our home," he snapped. "You will make restitution payments, and you will provide appropriate child support." I smiled. Not because I was amused, because I had every single piece of evidence I needed to shut this down. "I don't think you understand, Richard," I said, stepping closer. "I have a recording of you threatening to use your DA connections against me. I have messages of you all begging me to fix your house. And I have every little bit of your bullshit documented and ready to go." Asterisk. Richard's face drained of color. Claire's mouth fell open. The lawyer looked officially done with this family's nonsense. "Unless you want all of that played in open court," I continued, "I suggest you get back in your little SUV and forget you ever knew me." For a moment, there was silence. Then Olivia broke down into real tears. Not the fake kind. The real, gut-wrenching, regret-filled kind. "Please," she whispered. "Can't we just talk? Maybe we can fix this." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Some circuits," I said quietly, "once blown, can't be reset." Then I turned and walked back into my house. I locked the door behind me, and I never looked back. The true upgrade. A few weeks later, I got an update from my lawyer buddy. Turns out, Olivia was never even pregnant. Shocker. And once their lawyer realized how much evidence I had against them, they backed off completely. I haven't heard from any of them since. Amy and I, we're thriving. We found a little house with a detached garage I'm turning into a workshop. Her coffee shop is doing amazing, and we're even talking about expanding, maybe adding a small lunch menu. My business? Booming. Turns out, when one rich family hates you, all their enemies want to hire you. I had to bring on 3 more guys just to keep up. I bought a new work truck, got a loan to expand, even started mentoring young guys who don't want to go to college but have good hands and better brains. And Olivia? Last I heard, finance bro dumped her. Not because of any fake pregnancy drama, but because she was cheating on him with her personal trainer. Karma's AB*TCH. The best upgrade of all. Looking back, I don't regret a damn thing. Yeah, I flooded their house. Probably caused a small fortune in damages. Not my proudest moment. But you know what? It was the wake-up call I needed. For 2 years, I bent over backward, trying to be good enough for people who would never see my worth. I tried to fit into a world that would never accept me. But in the end, I didn't need to upgrade myself to fit their world. I needed to upgrade my world by removing them from it. And I've never been happier. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in the next one.